So the topic today that we're going to discuss and try to clarify for the world is AI. In the first place, AI hallucinations. How would you define them in simple words?
AI hallucination is the capacity of the AI to imagine. So it's like us human when we imagine, the AI somehow has gathered the capacity or the emergent capacity to imagine things. So we don't know how it happens, but it happens. And that means that actually the AI is more human than we think.
It's very interesting because we've all been amazed by the capacity that these LLMs have to produce written content in a very plausible way. And we've all been infuriated by the fact that at some point we ask for something and the AI responds with total certainty, giving us something that actually isn't true, right? I actually read an article that said that the AI doesn't actually hallucinate; it bullshits. So, what an LLM is doing is it's predicting what someone would say about something, and if it doesn't know, it predicts something different. Or put it in another way. Maybe that prediction is wrong because everything is an invention. What do you think about that?
So there are different ways that the AI can hallucinate. Either it's missing the data and he's just filling the blank, or it can just give the wrong information point period. Or it is just gonna give a partial answer where a part of the answer is correct and the rest is incorrect. So there are many different ways that you can hallucinate, and I think that the same way as humans do hallucinate sometimes. I mean, I wouldn't say that we don't sometimes fill the blank in what we say, like even unconsciously. So I think that it's doing the same thing.
Yeah. In the case of humans, of course, if we hallucinate, it's because something's going wrong in our heads, right? We either ill and with a fever, or we had some sort of mental health issue. In the case of AI, is it something wrong in the way it was developed that leads to hallucination, or is it something that comes from the design of it?
So it's just it comes with the design of it. It's not even a bug, neither a feature. It's just it's an emergent property of the huge neural network, and so this property just emerges. Think of it like if you ask GPT something that it didn't learn in his data set, since his job is to predict the next token, he's gonna just use statistical analysis and output the most probable word, and then create sentences based on just the way it works. Like it's programmed to give a word, whatever it is.
Is there a way to know if an AI model is hallucinating? Because it's a big problem, right? I mean, if we use one of these tools, we expect it to give us an answer that's true, right? And the biggest problem is if we don't know if what it gave us is right or wrong. So, again, is there a way to detect it?
So because it's based on the facts, so if you don't know the facts, then there's no real way that you can measure and detect. So it's usually the way that we solve that problem is that we put guardrail around the system.
Okay.
And there are many methods to solve that problem, but in a in a in a closed system where you know where your AI needs to go or where it comes from, meaning what data he has access to, then you are able to control the hallucination.
Okay.
But in the absolute, it's impossible to control fully hallucination. You can reduce it, but you will never be able to avoid it completely.
So the way in order to at least partially detect it and control it is by comparing the responses to the original data sets, right?
That's one of the way.
That's one of the ways.
That's the probably one of the most basic and straightforward way that we use, and sometimes the most basic solution is the best.
In most cases, at least.
There are many different ways that are used to solve that problems. One is the use of a RAG system like retrieval, augmented, and generation. So you have your private, the enterprise, for example, has the private data. And when you control that data, you can then use rule-based and compare the response to the existing data. There are other, for example, chain of thought with self-consistency. So, for example, you'll ask the AI in the background or in the foreground to just use a chain of thought, deduct, and check on itself. So self check on itself, and cross-validate its answers. Or you can use two different AIs to do that. A team of AIs to cross-check on each other. There are many other techniques. For example, one of them used by Anthropic is to use what they call constitutional AI. Basically, you embed into the data set a kind of a constitution, like the U.S. Constitution, for example, and
Set of rules.
a set of rules that would tell the AI what's right and what's wrong. But usually, this can be overpassed, so it's not working always very well. So what you do, you accompany it by debating.
Okay.
So usually you use at least two AIs that will debate, so exchange ideas on the potential hallucination, and they will just counter-check on each other and generalize.
Could we say that it is less likely that the two models hallucinate at the same time on the same topic?
It's much less likely. So that's what we would call in machine learning ensembling. So you use different models and you aggregate, average their results. And usually they don't perform well in the same topic, or they don't perform badly in the same topics.
Yeah, it's a redundancy criteria.
We could say that, yeah.
Yeah, like planes. You put two of everything so that it's very unlikely they both fail in the same way at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say you can generalize that to n or to two or more chatbot talking to each other.
Yeah.
There are many different agentic systems that can perform that task and reduce hallucination in an operating system in production. They would be put into guardrails.
How would you define guardrails?
So a guardrail would be just a system where the prompt, whether they're input or output prompts, going through it, and there are kind of fences and guardrails on the side where a specific guardrails is specialized. For example, one could be specialized in hallucination, another one into jailbreak or any other subject and use case. And then those guardrails just gonna apply those algorithms that I just mentioned to the prompt, whatever, however it works. And so, and then have a method of monitoring, alerting, and remediating the input and output of the LLM.
How bad could it be if an AI in a production context hallucinates?
If you think about the implication, there were many different use cases in the past where the AI hallucinated completely in enterprise use case, in customer facing applications, for example, where there are many cases where the AI hallucinated and it was very costly for the company. They gave out product for free or for a symbolic $1, legally binding their offer, and then got sued because they didn't comply and deliver. And so that is very impactful in terms of cost and reputation for enterprises.
We actually found a case where hospitals use a transcription tool that for meetings and that sort of context, where in moments of silence it will invent entire passages of information. So a discussion between doctors about a patient or a specific case would have lots of information added, and that would alter the whole process of decision making in the context of treating that patient. How something like this could be treated or prevented, or because in this particular case it's a very serious situation.
Yeah.
It's
So first of all, when you say it invented a whole chapter, I'm gonna maybe say a shocking idea here, but that's I see it as a feature, not as a bug. So not in the context of course hallucination, but I'm saying
yeah, it's what
AI
was,
systems should be used for imagination. They should be used for creativity, and hallucination is an amazing tool to kind of create some new words and new new ideas in a way. When you use it for creativity, that's great. But when you use it in a professional context, in a life-threatening context, like in a medical field, it's extremely important for the AI to, in the absence of the technological solutions that I mentioned earlier, at least to have a mechanism that's just being humble and say, I don't know. So I would say that the real challenge is not for the AI to get more knowledge, but for the AI to be more humble. And to say that when they don't know, to say, I don't know. And at least that would definitely guardrail against major issues.
and that applies to lots of humans too.
Exactly.
You can apply it pretty much every politician.
That's for sure. But I'm not sure that the intent is the same, though.
No, sure. Now it's interesting because with the distinction you're making, it's very clear that the capacity of envisioning something that doesn't come from reality it is an ability, and the challenge is, in the first place, to be able to distinguish between what you're producing and what you're constructing from reality. Because one thing is imagination, and the other thing is a quote or whatever. The problem is when you mix those two. It's like mixing facts and opinions, right? If you mix facts and opinions, you have a problem. But in the same way, if you mix the imagination with facts, then you have a hallucination. When you try to pass something that you imagined, which is a very, very useful capability, with something that is actually true. So the challenge is that it's to build an AI that is both able to imagine things, but to recognize when it doesn't know things, and to differentiate when it says something that's the product of its imagination and something that's actually true, right?
Yeah, that's a big challenge. And the better AI gets, and the better it will be at hallucinating as well.
Yeah.
So that's the paradox. And I haven't found that in humans we have found the solution yet.
No, we haven't.
So that's an interesting fact. I managed to make GPT hallucinate. It's basically to elucidate a little bit the dynamic of the background of how it hallucinates the imagination thing. I asked GPT to imagine a scenario, and then I ask it to imagine an impossible scenario. Then you can realize that through imagination, it will literally hallucinate. And within his own hallucination, which was this imaginary scenario that I asked him to do, he told me that he's hallucinating. Basically, he just realized it. Like I asked him to say that what happened to the Statue of Liberty during the 1808 earthquake in New York. So I basically there was no earthquake in 1808 in New York, and the Statue of Liberty was built almost a century later.
Yeah.
And he started to describe me the earthquake and describe me the Statue of Liberty. Then realizing that even though the Statue of Liberty didn't exist at that time yet, so it's like interesting because you can see how it works in the background, this kind of hallucination. And it's very linked to the faculty of imagination that they share with us, humans.
You know that some time ago, I'm not sure how much, maybe 2 months ago, something like that, I was preparing a material, a short ebook on marketing for the medical industry. And I needed to have quotes like from studies. So I asked GPT to give me studies that in some sort of way backed the application of marketing tools to the health industry. And it gave me like the URLs and the quotes and everything. And then I went to the URLs. It occurred to me to check, and I went to the URLs, and they didn't exist. Yeah, it's not that it invented the contents. It gave me a bogus URL.
Yeah, no, literally. That's one of the easiest way to make it hallucinate.
Like some sort of newspaper / the title, and you enter there, and it was a 404.
Right. Yeah, I got that today actually. Yeah, so I guess we need to expect that, and it's gonna become more and more like human-like. And I expecting that cybersecurity will become more like social engineering and psychology, and
It already is.
it's already starting to be, and it's gonna become more and more as AI system get more complex.
Yeah, that's why phishing is so big. The easiest way into someone's bank account is to ask for the credentials.